Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear students, today we will start from chapter number 18, conceptual questions, from which we have completed question number 1. And now we will start from question number 2, and the statement from book page number 259 is: which is more likely to expose a film kept in a cardboard box, alpha particles or beta particles? Explain. So the answer is a film kept in a cardboard box is more likely exposed to beta particles. Why? Because the reason is the beta particles are electrons that move very quickly with a lot of energy. Also, the beta particle is about 8,000 times smaller than that of the alpha particles. So this makes beta particles travel several feet in air when emitted from the radioactive source. So it has a less charge as compared to an alpha particle. So the conclusion is, due to its less mass and the less charge, the beta particles may go deep in certain substances, as it is very clear from the figure that the more penetrating power of the beta particles as compared to the alpha. Therefore, a photographic film kept in a cardboard box is more likely exposed to beta particles due to its more penetrating power. The question number 3 is it possible for a form of heavy hydrogen to decay by emitting an alpha particle? Explain. So the answer is no, it is not possible for heavy hydrogen to decay by emitting an alpha particle. And the reason is the alpha particles are the heavy ionized helium nuclei, while the heavy hydrogen is also known as the deuterium, and the nucleus of deuterium contains one proton and only one neutron. In alpha decay, a nucleus emits an alpha particle, that is the 2He4, that is the helium nuclei, which is doubly ionized helium nucleus. And the alpha particles contains 2 protons and 2 neutrons, that is a combination of 4 nucleons, while the hydrogen has only 1 proton and 1 electron and 1 neutron in its nucleus. So it is not possible for a heavy hydrogen to emit an alpha particle. Emission of alpha particle occurs most often in massive nuclei that having large number of neutrons and protons. This is the figure of the deuterium, which has only 1 proton and 1 neutron, and 1 electron is moving in the valence shell. While this is the figure of the alpha particles, that the 2 helium nuclei in which the 2 protons, 2 neutrons and the 2 electrons. Therefore, as heavy hydrogen has only 1 proton and 1 neutron in its nucleus, so it is not possible for a heavy hydrogen to emit an alpha particle. The question number 4 is, different isotopes of a given element have different masses, but they have the same chemical properties. Explain. Why chemical properties are unaffected by a change of isotope? And the answer is the chemical properties depend upon the electronic configuration. If the element have the same electronic configuration, or we can say that if the elements have the same valence number of electrons, then they have the same chemical properties. So first of all, we will define the isotopes, that one of 2 or more forms of a chemical element have the same number of protons or the same atomic number, but having the different number of neutrons or different atomic weight is called an isotope. And the heading is the chemical properties are unaffected by a change of isotope. All isotopes of a given element have the same number of protons in each atom, as it is very clear in this figure that protium, deuterium and tritium all have 1 electrons and 1 protons, while protium has 0, deuterium has 1 and tritium has 2 neutrons respectively. Therefore, the atomic weight of protium is 1, deuterium is 2 and tritium is 3 respectively. The number of protons within the atom's nucleus is called atomic number and is equal to the number of electrons in the neutral atom. Each atomic number identifies a specific element but not the isotope. Thus, different isotopes of a given element all have the same number of electrons and share a similar electronic configuration. The chemical properties are determined by the valence electrons of an atom and not by the neutrons in the nucleus. Therefore, because of this similar electronic structure, all isotopes of a given element having the same chemical properties. This is the conclusion. Now question number 5 is, what fraction of a radioactive sample has decayed after 2 half-lives have elapsed? So this is the numerical type question. So let us proceed that the original number, suppose the original number of the atom is equal to n naught, which is represented by n naught. Then the number of undecayed atoms after n half-lives is given by the formula you have to know, that is n is equal to 1 by 2 power n small n naught. Hence we have the 2 half-lives, therefore we will put small n is equal to 2 and the equation number 1 becomes n is equal to 1 by 2 whole square n naught, and as a result we get n is equal to 1 by 4 n naught, or you can also say that n naught divided by 4. Now number of decayed atoms is equal to the original atoms minus undecayed atoms. While the number of decayed atoms is represented by n complement, original atoms by n naught and undecayed atoms by n. So putting equation number 2 in equation number 3, we get n complement is equal to n naught minus n naught by 4, which is also equal to 1 by 4 n naught. So we will take the LCM of the denominators of 1 and 4. Then we get 4 n naught minus n naught divided by 4, and the result is n complement is equal to 3 by 4 n naught. And the conclusion is, hence the number of atoms decayed after 2 half-lives is equal to 3 by 4 n naught. You can also draw the graph instead of figure, that the n naught is the original number, and after the first half-life it will become n naught by 2, any half, and after the second half-life it becomes n naught by 4. The question number 6 is, can carbon-14 dating give the age of fossil dinosaur skeletons? Explain. And the answer is no. The carbon-14 dating cannot give the age of the fossil dinosaur skeleton. Why? The reason is, carbon dating is a technique used to find the age of the fossils and organic matter. But this method is only useful for organic matter which is less than 50,000 years old. This is because the amount of carbon-14, which is a radioactive, left in an object is too small to be detected after 50,000 years. So it is confirmed that the age of the dinosaur is from about 252 million years to 66 million years, and that era is known as the Mesozoic era. Therefore, it is not possible to determine the age of dinosaurs using carbon-14 dating. So this is the figure in which the nitrogen 14 will be converted into the trace elements of the carbon-14, carbon-13 and carbon-12, which is 99%, while the carbon-13 is 19%, and the trace elements of carbon-14. So when the organisms dies, then the carbon-14 decay begins, and after the time its ratio becomes decreased. The conclusion is, thus the carbon-14 dating technique is only useful for organic matter which is less than 50,000 years old. Therefore, it will not give the age of fossil dinosaur skeleton. The question number 7 is, some food is treated with gamma radiation to kill bacteria. Why is there not a concern that people who eat such food might be consuming food containing gamma radiations? And the answer is, the food is exposed to ionizing radiations either from gamma rays, X-rays or high energy electrons. This technique is used to extend the shelf life of the food produces and make them safe. Treating food with gamma rays does not make it radioactive, therefore irradiated foods are safe. The irradiations makes food safer by killing the harmful bacteria and parasite, as it is very clear from the figure that the gamma rays strike on the food and the germs which are present in the bacteria which are present in the food will be killed by these radiations. So the irradiated food is safe because the radiation do not strike the food directly. It only focused on the germs which is present in the food. The radiations used do not have sufficient energy to make changes in the nuclei of the food atoms and making them radioactive. So the conclusion is, the food is treated with the gamma radiation is not a concern that people who eat such food might be consuming the food containing gamma radiations. The question number 8 is, the radioactive alpha emitters are relatively harmless outside the body but can be dangerous if ingested or inhaled. Explain. And the answer is, among the ionizing radiations, alpha particles are the least dangerous in terms of external effects. They are the heaviest and having a high ionizing power than the beta and the gamma rays. So due to this, these particles, means alpha particles, do not penetrate deep into the body, as it is very clear from the figure. The alpha particles just only strikes and just only pass through the skin, while the beta particles enter into the skin and strike on the tissues, while the gamma radiations pass through the tissues and go through the organ. So the most penetrating power of the gamma rays and the X-rays as compared to the beta, and beta has more penetrating power as compared to the alpha. So due to this, these particles do not penetrate deep into the body. However, if swallowed or inhaled, it may cause more several effects and damage to our body due to its high ionizing power. For example, it may cause lung cancer. So the conclusion is, due to high ionizing power, it can be dangerous for a body. But it has the least penetrating power, so it will not enter into the body. That is much safer. Now the question number 9 is, if nuclear radiation is harmful, how it can be used for treatment of diseases? So for this purpose, we should have very careful while using the nuclear radiations for the treatment of diseases. But when these radiations are exposed to human body, they may cause several burns and other diseases. So to avoid such harmful effects, these radiations should be used carefully by expert doctors. The radiations should be focused on the germs of the affected area, and the other healthy parts of the body should be kept safe and sound from falling of radioactive radiations. So we should be very careful while using the nuclear radiation for the treatment of diseases. Like this, that the gamma radiations just focus on the germs of the affected area. So in this case, the nuclear radiations must be focused on the cancerous cells, and all the other healthy parts of the body should be kept safe and sound from falling of radioactive radiations. So this is all about the conceptual questions of chapter number 18. I hope you understand very well. Thank you for listening me. Allah Hafiz and take care.